Jungkook's secret home failed. Incheon Airport was immediately blown up by the army. Night still blanketed Seoul's skies as a flight from abroad was scheduled to land secretly at Incheon International Airport. There were no official announcements, no media reports, not even the VIP arrivals list was empty. Only a few airport staff knew, and they were given strict instructions: keep it confidential. It's about Jungkook. However, the secret did not last long. An army of loyal fans who are known to have a sharp emotional radar on the movements of BTS members began to feel something unusual from the very morning. Several large fanbase accounts shared a mysterious flight schedule leak from Los Angeles to Incheon. The names of the passengers were not written, but one small initial in the leaked airport documents was enough to get the army across Korea on the move. JK Kim wrote one line of code in the flight's internal register. And that's enough to fuel speculation. Meanwhile, on the plane, Jungkook sat quietly wearing a black hoodie and mask, trying to hide his identity. He gazed out the plane window, seeing the lights of Seoul begin to appear in the distance. His thoughts were mixed. After a month of secret projects abroad, he just wants to go home, went into the dorm without anyone knowing, then contacted Jimin secretly as they had planned. However, as soon as the plane landed and the wheels touched the runway, one notification from her phone made her heart beat. Trending J1GKOKSCOMINGBCK 3M tweets in 1 hour. It's freezing. How do they know? He whispered softly. Outside, the atmosphere was already far from what he expected. Incheon Airport, which is usually quiet in the early hours of the morning, turns into a mini concert stage. Hundreds of soldiers crowded the arrival gate. They carried banners, light sticks, and even large posters that read, "Welcome home, JK." Some of the security staff started to panic. They didn't expect that such a small piece of information could cause a tsunami of fans like this. AHYB manager in charge of welcoming Jungkook immediately picked up the phone. Plan B. We have to get out through the logistics side gate. But it was too late. Someone caught a glimpse of a tall figure with a black hoodie and longish hair that was walking briskly behind the arrival glass. The first scream broke out, "It's Jungkook." And instantly, the entire arrival hall exploded in euphoria. Screams, tears, voices of Jungkook. Jungkook. It sounded so loud that some reporters who didn't know it at first immediately raised their cameras. A flash of camera light began to strike. Some fans burst into tears, unable to believe they were actually seeing their idol return. Even without any official plans, Jungkook paused for a moment, standing sculpted behind the airport's automatic doors. He looked at the crazy crowd in front of him. His eyes were glazed, not because of fear, but because of a sense of anger that cannot be hidden. He lowered his head slowly, giving a small greeting while biting his lips, holding back emotions. In the searchlights and endless screams, only one voice in Jungkook's heart could be heard most clearly. They know I'm home. And they're waiting for me. One of the security officers eventually led him through the emergency lane, but that did not stop the fans who followed from outside the fence. Even as the black car carrying him drove out of the airport complex, hundreds of soldiers were still chasing with all their might, shouting words of support that made Jungkook's chest feel full. Arriving at the dorm, Jungkook entered with a quick step, immediately closing the door. But before he could actually take off his shoes, his phone rang. On-screen name, Jimin Hyung. He picked it up fast. The voice from the other side sounded soft, but full of smiles that could be heard clearly even if only through sound. The secret, right? Jimin said slowly. Jungkook laughed a little, half resigned. They know better than our own managers, Hyung. But you know what? That means they really love you. Jungkook sat on the floor, leaning against the door. I know, but the taste still shakes every time. Tomorrow, when you're ready, we'll talk. I cook seaweed soup, Jimin said again, trying to make the atmosphere lighter again. Jungkook nodded invisibly. I'm coming. And on that night, when everything was calm again, the trending topic still persisted. Army knows secret homecoming may fail, but the love they give never misses. They know. They always know. The morning enveloped the city of Seoul with still cool air. A thin breeze infiltrated slowly into the windows of the BTS dorm. The streets weren't crowded yet, and the sky was still pale gray when Jungkook woke up. His body still felt tired after the long flight and the events of last night that made his emotions mixed up. He sat on the edge of the bed, took a deep breath, then opened the last message on his cell phone. "Come early in the morning. I'll wait." It was a message from Jimin, sent at 3 a.m., just 2 hours after Jungkook arrived at the dorm. It didn't take long for Jungkook to prepare. He wore an oversized gray sweater and black training pants, hiding his face behind a hat and mask, not because he wanted to disguise himself, but because of a habit that was difficult to get rid of. With a light step, he came out of the dorm without waking anyone, down a corridor that felt so familiar, but also like a dream. Even in this unchanging building, Jungkook feels that something is different. He will see Jimin again. Not through video calls, not through messages, but really standing in front of each other. Jimin's apartment is just a few blocks from the dorm. He walked, taking advantage of the quiet morning and the streets still empty of city activity. Sunlight began to infiltrate from behind the tall buildings, adding to the impression of peace that he had hardly felt for a long time. When he finally got to the door of Jimin's apartment, he paused for a moment, staring at the wooden door. His hand was raised, hesitating to knock, but before he could knock, the door opened from the inside. "You're not too late," Jimin said with a small smile full of meaning. Jungkook could only laugh briefly. "I almost fell asleep again." "You're always like that whenever you want to talk about something important," Jimin replied, opening the door wider and gesturing to enter. Once inside, the strong aroma of seaweed and broth immediately greeted Jungkook. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the scent evoke old memories: a birthday, a special day, or the morning after a difficult night during a group promotion used to be. "Are you really cooking?" he asked, sitting at the dinner table. "I always cook for myself." Jimin handed me a bowl of warm soup and a bowl of rice. They eat in silence for several minutes, enjoying a simple but soul-warming taste. There are no words, but the atmosphere is full. When he finished, Jungkook stared at Jimin for a long time. "You know why I went home quietly, right?" Jimin nodded, staring at his teacup. "You need to calm down. Need space." Jungkook is down. "But I think that space is getting harder and harder for me, Hyung. Even when I tried to hide everything, they knew. I'm tired." Jimin did not answer immediately. He got up from his chair, walked to the balcony, and opened the door, letting the morning breeze in. Jungkook follows him, and they stand side by side, watching the city of Seoul begin to wake up from sleep. "We also used to stand on the balcony like this, remember?" Jimin asked slowly. Jungkook nodded. "We finished our first concert in Seoul in 2015. At that time you said, if we're really famous, we'll be able to hide together, right?" Jungkook laughed softly. "And you say we're going to hide in the song." Jimin smiled faintly. "Maybe it's time to hide again." "You mean?" Hyung asked Jungkook. Jimin looked into her eyes. "Recording. Let's do something. Don't do anything to anyone. Make for ourselves. A song that could be a hiding place for both of us." Jungkook was silent. There's nothing more comforting than Jimin's words at a time like this. He knew Jimin always knew how to make any burden feel light, not by offering an escape, but by giving direction. "Have you started writing something?" Jungkook asked finally. Jimin nodded, then went inside and took a small notebook from the table. He handed it to Jungkook. On the first page, it says, "Even if the world finds us, let them hear only the melody. We will disappear in harmony, like we never tried to hide." Jungkook stared at those words for a long time. It was like reading his own thoughts that he couldn't put into words. Slowly, he closed the book and nodded. "If we start from this song, I'm in," he said, his voice almost whispering. And in the morning, in a small warm room with the smell of tea and leftover seaweed soup, two tired hearts began to reassemble big plans. Not for the world, but for themselves. A song, a silent message, a hug hidden in a melody that only they understand.